So the Eli Ricks noise is real, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about the noise around Eli Ricks, who may enter the transfer portal, and a team to watch for is Ohio State. And yet, and still, I don't think people understand the kind of player Eli Ricks is. A couple stories to tell you about the noise of that man as a player. I go down to the opening final in 2018, where I got to see up close the best high school seniors and a few of the best juniors in football. And Eli was one of the juniors that was invited to the opening final. Every bit of 6'3", every bit of 200 pounds, long, slender, and fast, understands who he is, understands what his role is. I thought he was going to be a shutdown corner, and the dude actually was the second best slot corner in all of college football behind Malachi Moore for me, and yet he might argue that point because the dude was 100% showing out with 2 interceptions that he returned for touchdowns last year, had 4 as a true freshman. But at the opening final, I saw him going up against best wide receivers in the country, and not only did he hold his own, he looked like he was supposed to be there. And remember, he was a year younger than most of the guys that were showing up. This is class of 2019, he's class of 2020. I ask around, and I'm told over and over again, Eli Ricks is the guy. And this is not just the guy at the opening final, but the guy at Modern Day, where he's going up in practice against Bryce Young, against JT Daniels. The 3 starting defensive backs of the 4, Jeremiah Cadell, who plays safety at Oklahoma, Darian Green-Warren, who plays corner at Michigan, and Eli. But when he chose LSU, it was really a shock to the system for some, but a move that I thought would work because Eli Ricks is going to work. Many of you know that I sit on the Jim Thorpe Award selection committee, and I take defensive back play very seriously, and I'm always trying to study it. I'm always trying to figure out who the best players in the country are, right? Very early on the Brandon Joseph train at Northwestern, that dude's a player. He's going to play for a long time in the NFL. I can't wait to watch him next year. But with Ricks, that dude was one, I think, going to start anyway if Akari Vincent does not opt out, right? Like, I think he's that good. And he showed it. When LSU played Florida in the Swamp, he was one of the guys that got started that improbable upset win in the shoe game, where he picks off a Kyle Trask pass, just jumping the route, seeing what it's supposed to be, takes it all the way back to the house. He can return kicks, but that's not what he does. And if he were to enter the portal and he were to end up at Ohio State, you get better immediately. I put this man in the same category as Jeff Okudah, as Marshawn Lattimore, right? I put this man in the same category as the best to ever come out of Ohio State. And if Kerry Combs has him and has an opportunity to develop him, sky's the limit for Eli Ricks and what that defense can be. Add to that, Haskell Garrett return, right? Add to that, Chris Olave return. As a matter of fact, the good folks at Fox Bet gave me what they thought would be a line because he wasn't listed because going to the NFL, so many people thought that's how much of a surprise Olave was coming back. But plus 10,000 odds to win the Heisman. Getting wide receiver odds is a feat unto itself. So that tells you everything you need to know about the kind of player that guy is. But I wanted to speak to this because I would really enjoy watching Eli Ricks play wherever he wants to play. But the way that slot corner is valued in the NFL, and quite literally in college football too, but in the NFL, I think it's up there with the defensive tackle nose guard position. If you find a great slot corner, you would put yourself in position to have one of the better defenses in the NFL each and every year. Minkah Fitzpatrick can play it, doesn't need to because they got 2 of them at Pittsburgh, right? And I know that it didn't end well for them, but that defense was a big reason as to why they were so good. He also could play outside corner for you. Like the way that folks value Denzel Ward, is the way that I think you would value an Eli Ricks. You might look at him the way that Brian Kelly looked at Pat Surtain in the Rose Bowl, where he said, no, we're just not going to throw where he is. That is the kind of expertise an Eli Ricks can lend to anybody. And I'm sure Ed Orgeron is working like crazy to try to keep him. But first, you got to figure out who the defense coordinator is, right? And the dude that he had showed up to play for took the job at Baylor. The dude that he played for got fired, Bo Pelini. You can understand how a bunch of the kiddos would want out of their current situation because you're bringing in a new coordinator, a third coordinator in 3 years at LSU. Some of those guys want to be able to get to know the system and succeed in it. And it wasn't as if LSU was playing outstanding defense in 2019 to begin with, right? They had players. Grant Delpit was a dude, is a dude. Derek Stingley Jr. is a dude. But they were still getting scored on a little too much for my liking to be so dominant because they were able just to outscore everybody. I mean, we're talking about Joe Burrow having 60 touchdown passes and just 6 picks, right? They could just run it up on folks. But if you compare that with the kind of defense that we saw Alabama play at least every game but Ole Miss and perhaps Florida, yeah, you're going to get back to the college football playoff. You're going to have an opportunity to win it. As a matter of fact, I was asked to put together a way too early prediction for the New Year's Six Bowls, and I got Ohio State in the playoff, just going on some new data that we got since I put out the way too early top 25 rankings. Shows you how quickly all of this stuff can change, and my opinion is based on the data that I have. And I want to go through that with you in a little bit later upload, but I do want to talk about this just a little bit because I know that there are folks that were asking for this video and asking for this segment, and I was doing some of that reporter stuff and trying to run it down. And the noise is real. We'll see what happens. I know this: wherever Eli Ricks is, dude's gonna stunt. Dude's gonna show out. He's really that good, and I'm excited to see what his next chapter looks like. If it's at LSU, great. If it's at Ohio State, great. Either way, enjoy him while he plays football. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.